Today we are going to go over adding fractions, specifically fractions with unlike denominators. So the first step in adding fractions with unlike denominators is finding a common denominator so that you can add these, I guess you could say, apples to apples, right? Because it's hard to add 1/4 to 1/3. You have to change one or both of the denominators so that they're the same, basically. And then you just add the numerators. So the way to do that is there are a couple of things you can do. Okay, well, yeah, there's a couple of strategies, but they all come down to pretty much multiplying one or both of the fractions. And you're always going to multiply it by, well, one way you can do it is you're always multiplying both the numerator and denominator by the same number. And then you get an equivalent fraction. And why this works is anytime you have the same number in the numerator and denominator, something like this, or like this, or even like this, anytime the numerator and denominator are the same, it equals 1, because it means you have a whole split into two parts, and you have both parts. You have two parts. You have a whole split into three parts, right? That's what the denominator says, and you have all three. You have a whole split into 100 parts, and you have all 100. So these are all equal to 1. And what happens if you multiply something by 1? It stays the same, right? The value stays the same. So we need to find a denominator that both of these, we can multiply both of these by, or we just need to make these denominators the same. So the way to do this is basically to find what they call the least common denominator, or the least common factor. So the least common factor of 4 and 3, in this case, an easy way of finding a common factor is you can literally just multiply these, the denominators together. And in this case, that would actually give you the least common denominator. So I know that 12 is both a common multiple. Yeah, so it wouldn't be least common factor, it would be the least common multiple. I don't know if I might have misspoke earlier, but it's a multiple, right? So 4 and 3 both have 12 as multiples. So what do I have to multiply 4 by to get to 12? I would have to multiply it by 3. And then I'm going to have to multiply it top and bottom by 3, so then it would become 3/12. Okay? Then I have 1 over 3 over here, and what do I have to multiply this by? I have to multiply this by 4 over 4 to get 12s. And then it becomes plus 4/12, right? 1 times 4 is 4, 3 times 4 is 12. And now all I do is just add the numerators, and this becomes 7/12. Pretty simple. So once you actually get the common denominator, it's just usually quite simple adding. In this case, we have the 4 and the 8. I know that the least common denominator in this one is actually going to be 8, so I don't even need to change this 1/8. All I need to do is multiply 3/4 by 2 over 2, because 2 times 4 equals 8. And then 3 times 2 equals 6. So I'm just going to cross these out, and then it becomes 6/8 plus 1/8, which just equals 7/8. Okay, pretty simple. Now in this one, this is going to be, the numbers are going to get a little bigger, but the least common multiple of 11 and 7 is actually just going to be 11 times 7, which is 77. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to multiply this first one by 7 over 7, and this one by 11 over 11, and we are going to get 6 times 7 equals 42, 11 times 7 equals 77, plus 11, right? 1 times 11 is 11, over 77, because 7 times 11 is 77. Now we just add these up. 42 plus 11 is 53 over 77. So if you're trying to find a common multiple, you can always, if you don't know any off the top of your head, you can always just multiply the two denominators together, and it will give you a common multiple, and then you can do the problem. Now, you might end up getting something like, in this case, we can't reduce the fraction, but you might end up getting something like 48 over 64. Let's just say you got this as an example. And in this case, if you can divide both of these by the same number, in this case you can divide both top and bottom by 8, you will reduce the fraction. And typically you want to give a reduced fraction. So this would actually be 6 over 8, and then you can reduce this even more because both are even, and then it actually becomes, we can divide both top and bottom by 2, and then it actually becomes 3/4. So that was just a quick overview of how to add and find common denominators of fractions. Hopefully that helps.